Lightning splits the sky above the Mississippi River, illuminating slick pavement and the steel girders of an old suspension bridge. It's past midnight. The rain lashes sideways as fierce gusts of wind cut through the darkness. Headlights from occasional passing cars flicker along the wet roadway, but otherwise, the entire stretch is eerily deserted. Harlan stands at the rail in a frayed jacket, drenched to the bone. His phone buzzes in his grip, an unknown number from Austin, Texas. He stares at the screen for a moment but doesn't answer. He can't. Not tonight. The ache in his chest pulses in time with the thunder, and he's already chosen what he believes is the only way out. A memory flashes before him. Rochelle, his ex-wife, smiling coyly as she reads texts from Damon, who was supposed to be Harlan's protective older brother. The bitterness swirling in his gut is almost worse than the storm raging around him. Harlan's knuckles whiten on the guardrail, the metal cold beneath his fingers. He thinks about Jonah, the toddler he once believed was his son. A pinch of regret twists his heart. But none of it was real, he murmurs, voice nearly swallowed by the storm. Rainwater drips from his hairline into his eyes, blurring his vision as he peers over the edge. Far below, the river thrashes, black and angry under the lightning flashes. One decisive movement, and this crushing guilt will end. One step forward, that's all it takes to vanish. His phone buzzes again, snapping him out of the moment. He silences it, tossing it roughly onto the pavement behind him. No more calls, no more reminders. He presses his palms onto the rail, leaning forward. A flash of headlights suddenly slices through the dark. Tires screech as a large vehicle skids to a stop several yards behind him. A woman's voice shouts, "Hey, get back from there!" Harlan whips around, blinking rain out of his eyes. The glare of floodlights mounted on an 18-wheeler reveals a tall figure wrestling with an umbrella. Her hair is partially covered by a hood, her posture tense and determined. She steps closer, ignoring the wind beating against her jacket. "Did you hear me? Move away from the edge!" she yells, her tone sharper this time. Harlan tries to muster defiance, but the raw exhaustion in his body overshadows anything else. "Mind your own damn business!" he shouts back, voice cracking. The wind carries his words away, yet the woman pushes forward. A flash of lightning illuminates her face, intense eyes, jaw set firm. She's not backing off. She hurls a folded plastic raincoat toward him. "Put it on. If you're gonna jump, at least don't freeze first," she calls, a biting edge in her sarcasm. It startles him, and for a heartbeat, he hesitates. Another car swerves by, splashing water. The bridge deck goes slick under Harlan's feet. He slips, almost toppling over the side. A rush of adrenaline snaps him back into reality as the woman lunges, seizing his arm. His boots scramble for traction on the drenched concrete. In the neon glare of her truck's headlights, he sees her eyes widen in alarm. She pulls him in, both of them stumbling backward. Their breath fogs in the cold air as they collapse onto the bridge in a heap, harsh rainfall drumming on the steel. Harlan's heart pounds in his ears. It's been so long since someone has touched him with any kind of concern, so long since he's felt anything but numb. He looks up, blinking water from his lashes. The woman exhales shakily, still gripping his hand. "I'm Aveline," she says, her voice calmer now, albeit rough with urgency. "Tell me your name if you still plan on letting go of everything." For several seconds, he can't form any words. The storm is relentless, thunder vibrating through the framework overhead. Finally, he answers, "Harlan." She nods, pulling them both upright. "All right, Harlan, let's get out of this damn weather. My cab's warm." Her tone softens slightly. "You can decide whatever you want after you've had a chance to dry off." He can barely process what's happening, why she even cares. The wind howls like a living thing, and she steadies him. They stagger toward the open door of her massive Kenworth, illuminated by pulsing hazard lights. Harlan glances once at the swirling water below, then follows her inside. The door slams shut, muffling the storm but leaving a tempest of questions in his head. He never imagined a stranger could pull him back from the brink, especially on a night like this. Sitting in the passenger seat of Aveline's Kenworth, Harlan can't shake the tremor in his hands. The interior smells faintly of coffee and worn leather. His soaked jacket drips onto the rubber floor mat, forming a small puddle at his feet. Aveline fidgets with the heater controls, blasting warm air in his direction. Outside, the storm still hammers the windshield, wipers slashing furiously to keep up. It's late past 1 a.m. by now, yet the night feels endless. Aveline hands him an old blanket from behind the seat. "Wrap up," she says, eyeing his drenched clothes. "There's more in the sleeper if you're freezing." He rubs the blanket over his face, trying to slow his breathing. Adrenaline still pulses through his veins. The image of nearly tumbling off the bridge flashes every time he closes his eyes. You really didn't have to do that," he mutters, voice shaky. Aveline shrugs, glancing at him with something between irritation and concern. "I couldn't just drive by and watch you kill yourself." Her tone is blunt. "You want me to drop you at the next motel or a hospital?" She's not coddling him, and for some reason that bluntness makes him feel less pathetic. He's silent for a long moment, burying his face in the blanket to wipe off the water clinging to his hair and neck. He finally mumbles, "I'm not sure what I want." Lightning streaks across the sky and thunder cracks above them. Aveline gives a short, humorless laugh. "Well, that's a start," she says, switching on the overhead light and rummaging through a small cooler. She hands him a half-finished bottle of water. "Here. You look half dead, but maybe hydration will help." Harland accepts it, sips slowly. His throat is tight, every swallow reminding him how raw his emotions feel. "I don't suppose you have whiskey in that cooler," he says, an attempt at humor that sounds more like despair. Aveline's eyebrows lift. "Ha, no, pal. Strictly water and soda in my rig. Gotta keep a clear head on the road." He sets the bottle on the dash, then catches a glimpse of himself in the side mirror. His eyes look haunted, cheeks pallid. Rain streaks the window behind him, twisting the reflection into something ghost-like. He shifts uncomfortably, trying to steady his breath. "So, Harland?" Aveline begins, her voice almost drowned out by the pounding rain. "Where were you headed before you stopped?" He exhales, raking a hand through his damp hair. "Truth? I wasn't headed anywhere. I left my car up on that bridge and, well, you saw the rest." She nods slowly, adjusting the truck's gear. "That's a dangerous place to make big decisions," she remarks, a note of grim humor in her tone. Pulling back onto the highway, she glances at the empty route ahead. "Look, my next stop is a 24-hour truck plaza about an hour from here. Why don't you ride along? If you still want to vanish from this world after you get some rest, I won't stop you." She pauses, gaze forward. "But maybe you'll think different once you've dried off." Harland can't find a response. He just nods. It's not like he has a better plan. His entire life has collapsed in a swirl of betrayal and heartbreak. Being alone with his thoughts tonight seems like a sure path to repeating that suicidal impulse. The truck rumbles forward, each mile a buffer between him and that fatal drop. The heater's warmth finally seeps into his limbs. Harland rubs his forehead, recalling the phone call from Austin that he ignored. Rochelle? Damon? His parents? He can't even muster the energy to care. Aveline breaks the silence after a while. "So," she starts, glancing sidelong at him. "What's your story, anyway?" He inhales shakily, not ready to spill everything to a stranger. "It's complicated," he answers quietly, eyes slipping shut. "Let's just say, I lost trust in the people closest to me." She doesn't push further. Instead, she fiddles with the radio, searching for a station not drowned in static. Harland's mind drifts over the events that drove him to that bridge. Rochelle's betrayal, Damon's smug grin, the heartbreak of realizing Jonah was never his. Shame churns inside him. Aveline taps the wheel. "I'm Aveline, in case I didn't mention it. I'm from Texas, originally. Been driving trucks for a few years now." She glances over, catching his tired gaze. "We'll stop soon. You can shower, eat something decent. Sounds good?" He nods, words lodged in his throat. Maybe it does sound good. Maybe, just maybe, he's not done living. The storm roars outside, but in the cabin, for the first time in months, Harland feels a spark of safety, a fleeting sense that not everything is lost. Close to 2 a.m., the Kenworth rumbles into a sprawling truck stop lit by neon signs and tall fluorescent lamps. The rain has eased to a steady drizzle, though dark clouds still loom overhead. A bulky, open 24/7 sign flickers near the entrance, promising hot coffee and questionable diner food. Aveline parks around the back, where half a dozen trucks line up in designated bays. Engines growl softly in the background, and distant laughter from a group of drivers echoes across the asphalt. "End of the road for tonight," she announces, powering down the rig. "Gotta log my hours anyway." Harlan fidgets, feeling a wave of uncertainty. He stares at the rows of vending machines and the bright-lit building. "This is not what I expected," he mutters. Then again, he never expected to be alive at this hour. He glances at Aveline. "Thank you for not letting me do something stupid." She tilts her head, offering a half smile. "Don't thank me yet. The coffee here tastes like it's been brewing for a week." They head into the main entrance, battered by the final droplets of the storm. Inside, fluorescent lights buzz over aisles of convenience items, everything from snacks to phone chargers. A TV mounted on the wall broadcasts muted late-night news. A couple of other drivers shuffle around, bleary-eyed, scouring shelves for energy drinks. At the diner section, a lone waitress in a pink uniform greets them, leading them to a vinyl booth. "Late night, huh?" she remarks, handing over laminated menus. "Kitchen's open another hour if you want hot food." The name on her tag reads Tina. Harlan slides into the booth. His stomach churns, a blend of hunger and nerves. The conversation with Aveline so far has felt surreal. He's still half convinced he's dreaming. He eyes the menu. Burgers, hash browns, chicken fried steak. It all looks greasy, but somehow comforting. Tina returns, pen poised over her notepad. Aveline orders black coffee and a bacon cheeseburger, then glances at Harlan expectantly. After a pause, he adds, "Same burger, I guess, and coffee. Lots of coffee." "Coming right up," Tina says, swinging away toward the kitchen. Aveline leans forward, arms on the table. "So, any chance you'll tell me why you ended up on that bridge? Or do you prefer to keep me in suspense?" Harlan laces his fingers, swallowing hard. "I was married," he says, voice subdued. "She had an affair with my own brother. The kid I thought was mine turned out to be his." Aveline's gaze flickers with surprise, but not pity. "Damn," she says quietly. "That's rough." He breathes out a shaky laugh. "Yeah, rough is an understatement. My entire family turned their backs on me, I guess. They didn't want to lose access to the grandkid, so I was the outcast." Aveline nods, not interrupting him. The low hum of the diner's overhead lights is oddly comforting. He's grateful she just listens, no fake sympathy in her eyes. Tina reappears with 2 mugs of steaming coffee. Harlan curls his chilled fingers around the cup, letting the warmth seep in. For a moment, neither he nor Aveline speak. She takes a sip, grimaces at the bitterness, then doctoring it with a few sugar packets. Finally, she looks at him. "Look, no matter what happened, you being alive is better than the alternative. Trust me on that." She stirs her spoon, the metal clanking gently. "I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a start." Harlan forces a small nod. If he hadn't slipped, if Aveline hadn't grabbed his arm. He swallows, refusing to let that thought complete itself. "Thank you," he murmurs, a murky swirl of gratitude and guilt tightening in his chest. Aveline waves off the thanks, changing the subject. "So, any plans now? You can't just drift forever." There's no accusation, only practical curiosity in her tone. He opens his mouth, closes it again. "Plans?" The concept feels foreign. "I don't know," he admits. "I was so determined to end everything that I didn't bother thinking past tonight." She drums her fingers on the table. "Well, for what it's worth, I'm heading toward a drop-off in Arkansas tomorrow, then looping back down to Texas. If you need a ride, I could use the company." She shrugs lightly. "Or we can part ways here, no hard feelings." Before Harlan can respond, Tina arrives with steaming plates. The scent of bacon and melted cheese makes his stomach rumble. He offers a nod of thanks, picking up the burger. The first bite floods his senses with salt and fat, maybe the best and worst meal he's had in months. Aveline munches on fries, gaze drifting over the quiet diner. He sets down his burger, meeting her eyes. "A ride sounds good," he says, his heart pounding with a strange mixture of hope and dread. "I think I'm not ready to be alone yet." Aveline nods in agreement, taking another sip of her brutally bitter coffee. Outside, the rain tapers off, leaving the neon lights reflected in scattered puddles. Night shifts toward dawn, and for the first time in a long time, Harland feels a flicker of possibility maybe tomorrow won't be as dark as he believed. After finishing their makeshift meal, Harland and Aveline wander back to the Kenworth. The parking lot has quieted. Only distant rumbling engines and the faint glow of overhead lamps remain. A gray wash of pre-dawn light creeps along the horizon, hinting at a coming sunrise. Aveline steps onto the rig's running board and gestures for Harland to hop inside. "We'd better get a few hours of sleep," she says, stifling a yawn. "I've got to drive at least 6 more hours tomorrow." Harland climbs in, suddenly aware of how exhausted he is. Every muscle aches, from clinging to that bridge rail to the emotional meltdown that nearly claimed his life. Inside, Aveline flicks on a dim reading lamp, revealing a compact bunk area behind the seats. There's just enough space for 2 if they're careful not to bump elbows. "Here," she says, tossing him a spare pillow. "You can lie down in the sleeper. I'll take the front seat or something." He shakes his head, hesitating. "No, I can." He glances at the narrow bunk, then at her. "It's your truck. I don't want to—" "Relax," she interrupts. "I've had to share cramped spaces before. Just keep your side, and I'll keep mine." Her lips twitch in a faint smirk. "I promise I don't bite." Despite the dryness in her humor, Harland senses a flicker of tension. 2 strangers, forced into proximity. But there's a strange comfort in it, too. He exhales, nodding. "All right." They shuffle around, removing jackets and shoes to avoid tracking more water into the bunk. Aveline sets her phone alarm for a few hours later, just enough rest to manage the next day's haul. The confined sleeper area forces them close. He can feel the warmth of her body radiating under the blankets. For a while, neither speaks. Harland stares at the ceiling, noticing a small patch of stickers and postcards from various states, a Route 66 sign, a Grand Canyon photo, a Florida palm tree sticker. They tell a silent story of Aveline's travels. He wonders who she is beyond this moment, why she's on the road, what heartbreaks she might be running from. But right now, he's too worn out to ask. His eyelids grow heavy. He's nearly drifting off when she murmurs, "Hey, you okay?" His voice comes out hushed. "I don't know," he admits. "I guess I will be." She shifts slightly, the bunk creaking under their combined weight. "Fair enough," she says softly. "Get some sleep." Minutes pass. Outside, a distant truck horn echoes, but inside the Kenworth, the hush of the heater and the closeness of another human being lull Harland into an uneasy rest. Images flicker behind his eyes. Rochelle's face twisted in guilt, Damon's mocking smirk, the swirl of water below the bridge. Then, unexpectedly, Aveline's determined expression breaks through the nightmare, pulling him back from the mental edge. His breath steadies. He can almost believe that come sunrise, he might be a different man, or at least a man with a second chance. When sleep finally takes him, it's deeper than any in recent memory, free of immediate nightmares. As the truck stop hums with distant life, 2 strangers share a cramped bed in the back of a big rig, bound together by circumstance and an unspoken understanding. Sometimes you need someone to catch you before you can learn how to stand again. Morning light slants through the windshield, illuminating dust motes floating around the cabin. Aveline coaxes the Kenworth onto the highway, heading east. The stormy chaos of the night before seems distant now, only patches of wet pavement remain, and the Mississippi River has faded in the rearview mirror. Harland sits in the passenger seat, arms folded across his chest, gazing at the passing scenery. Even though the storm has cleared, a different tempest churns inside him. He can't shake off the memories that resurfaced last night, memories of Rochelle and Damon. He exhales softly, eyes drifting shut. Images flash, a bright living room, Rochelle laughing, flipping through a baby book, Damon standing nearby, arms folded in that smug way of his, a hastily scribbled paternity test, the doctor's sympathetic face as Harland realized Jonah wasn't his child after all, Rochelle's tearful confession, "I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to happen this way." His parents' cold shoulders. We can't risk losing our grandson, they told him. Be reasonable, Harland. He jerks back to the present when Aveline taps his shoulder. You okay? You kinda zoned out. Harland wets his lips, blinking away the sting in his eyes. Just old memories, he says hoarsely. Sometimes it feels like I'm stuck in them, you know? She gives him a quick sidelong glance, then returns her focus to the road. I get that. I won't pry, but if you ever need to talk, I'm right here. He nods, still unsure how much he wants to spill, but the silence grows heavy, and part of him aches to unburden. It's as if the emotional dam is cracking after being sealed so long. Eventually he speaks, voice subdued. Her name is Rochelle, my ex-wife. We married young, and I thought everything was perfect until I found out she was sleeping with my brother Damon, and that the little boy I adored wasn't mine. Aveline's grip on the steering wheel tightens. Wow, that's a lot. Yeah, Harlan murmurs. I kept telling myself it was a nightmare I'd wake up from. He massages the back of his neck, tension coiling in his muscles. And my parents took her side, or I guess they took Damon's side. They said they had to protect Jonah's interests, to keep the family together. A hollow laugh escapes him. Some family, right? Aveline's mouth twists into a grim line. That's messed up. I'm sorry you had to go through that. For a while they ride in silence, the highway stretching before them like an endless ribbon of asphalt. Harlan watches farmland roll by rusting silos, scattered herds of cattle. The peaceful landscape starkly contrasts his inner turmoil. Finally, Aveline clears her throat, attempting a lighter tone. So, any music preference? I have a radio app on my phone. Sometimes a good song helps keep your mind off things. Sure, Harlan answers, grateful for the change of subject. She taps a few icons, and a soft country rock melody flows through the speakers. It's not exactly his taste, but the gentle guitar strum feels comforting, a counterbalance to his swirling thoughts. They drive another hour before Aveline pulls into a modest roadside diner to refuel and grab a quick brunch. Inside, the decor is retro Americana checkered floors, neon signs advertising milkshakes. Harlan sips his coffee, only half listening to a chatty waitress discussing the local weather. But as he glances at the red vinyl booth across from him, he imagines Damon once sitting there with Rochelle, smiling behind Harlan's back. The bitterness creeps up again. Aveline notices his distant stare. You sure you're good? She asks softly, leaning forward. You look like you just saw a ghost. He forces a tight smile. I'm fine, he lies. Just can we get back on the road soon? Aveline nods, not pushing. Outside, the sky is bright, no trace of storm clouds. Maybe, Harlan thinks, it's a sign that his life can clear up too. Yet the scars remain fresh, and he's not sure how to heal. He only knows that sitting around drowning in regrets isn't helping anymore. They settle back into the truck, the faint smell of bacon lingering from the diner. As the Kenworth rumbles onto the highway once more, Harlan steadies himself. He survived last night. Maybe that's a start. By early afternoon, the sun is high and the interstate hums with traffic. Harlan gazes out the window, letting the rolling farmland morph into pine forests. He wonders where Aveline will stop next. She hasn't said much since brunch, but there's an energy in her eyes like she's working up the nerve to share something. Finally, while passing a roadside billboard advertising a family theme park, she speaks up. You mentioned you were married, she begins carefully. I was too. Sort of. Harlan angles himself, curiosity piqued. Sort of married? Aveline's grip on the wheel tightens. Legally, yeah. Emotionally, not so much. She shifts in her seat. His name's Leroy. We met when I was in my early 20s. He was older, a trucker. At first, I thought he was my ticket out of a dead-end job. I guess I latched onto him. Harlan listens quietly, noting the flicker of hurt in her tone. Outside, a large semi honks, passing them on the left. She waits until it's gone before continuing. I learned to drive trucks because of him. We worked as a team for a while. He taught me everything. Then, after we got married, things changed. Her voice lowers. He wanted to keep running, hauling jobs all over, but I got pregnant. I wanted a home base, a stable place for our kid. Leroy wasn't interested in that life. She glances at Harland, eyes clouded. He left before Toby was even 3. I'm not sure if he's still somewhere on the road. He never calls. Toby, Harland repeats softly. That's your son? Aveline nods. He's 5 now. My mom helps look after him back in Tyler. I try to swing by whenever I can, but it's tough. She wets her lips, a slight quiver betraying her composure. Sometimes I feel guilty being gone so much, but this job pays the bills. Harland's chest tightens with empathy. I'm sorry. That must be hard raising a kid alone. She exhales, flicking on her turn signal to merge. It is. But Toby's great smart, funny. He loves building block towers and painting weird little stick-figure aliens. A faint smile curves her lips. He's my reason to keep going. He realizes they share a thread of pain. Both were abandoned by people who should have stayed. It makes him feel less alone somehow. Thanks for telling me, he says quietly. Aveline shrugs, eyes forward. Guess I figured if you can open up about your nightmare, I can open up about mine. Doesn't make us best friends or anything, but maybe it helps to talk. A comfortable silence settles, the truck's engine rumbling beneath them. In the distance, the sky brightens into a wide expanse of blue, reflecting in scattered ponds along the highway. Harland leans back, letting the hum of the tires soothe him. His mind slips to Toby, a kid he's never met, but one Aveline is clearly devoted to. He pictures a small boy with an inquisitive grin, waiting for his mom to return. It triggers a pang in Harland's chest, reminding him of the father role he lost with Jonah. But he shakes off the darker thoughts, focusing instead on the quiet gratitude he feels for this moment of shared honesty. Late in the afternoon, they stop at a small-town truck station to top off the Kenworth's fuel. The place has an old-school vibe, a hand-painted sign, a squeaky screen door leading into a dusty shop. Aveline steps out to handle payment while Harland stretches his legs. The air is warm, heavy with the scent of diesel and freshly cut grass from a nearby field. As he wanders toward a vending machine, an older driver strikes up conversation Jamal, according to the patch on his cap. They exchange polite nods, and soon Harland finds himself answering questions about where he's headed. Honestly, not sure, Harland admits, the words tasting strange on his tongue. Just traveling with a friend. Jamal chuckles. Sometimes that's the best plan, no plan at all. Be safe out there. Before long, Aveline waves Harland back to the truck. They merge onto a quieter highway, flanked by tall oaks arching overhead. She taps her fingers on the wheel, glancing at him. So I've been thinking, she begins, hesitating. I plan to swing back to Tyler after this haul. Check on Toby. Might stay there a bit. Harland nods, not sure what she's getting at. Makes sense. You miss your kid. Yeah, she agrees. Her voice wavers. Look, you said you had no place to go. Maybe you could come to Tyler with me. I've got a house, my mom's house. We can figure out a spare room or something. You can. Catch your breath. He stiffens. The idea of stepping into someone else's home life is daunting, especially after all he's lost. But he pictures roach-infested motels and endless highways, and it only intensifies the gnawing emptiness. Are you sure? You barely know me. Aveline snorts softly. Didn't stop me from yanking you off a bridge. Besides, you seem decent enough. And hey, you ever thought about learning to drive trucks? You already spend time in one? Her tone tries to stay casual, though there's a hint of earnestness behind it. No pressure, obviously, but it might be an option. Harland's gaze drops to his hands, heart pounding with a confusing mix of fear and relief. Yeah, that might help. He concedes quietly, remembering how lost he's felt since Rochelle's betrayal. A new location, a new start, it's terrifying, yet oddly appealing. They exchange glances, a silent understanding passing between them. Outside, the trees form a green tunnel, sunlight flickering through the branches. This invitation feels like a turning point, a shift from darkness toward a tentative sense of hope. Night falls again, and they still have miles to go before reaching Tyler. Spotting a motel vacancy sign off the highway, Aveline steers the Kenworth into the gravel lot. The neon glow from the sign casts eerie shadows across the parked cars, and a flickering porch light reveals a single-story building with chipped paint. Harlan climbs down, wincing at a stiff back. He follows Aveline inside the cramped lobby, where a bored clerk hands them a key. One room left. They share a knowing look, remembering that the truck sleeper isn't exactly spacious. At least the motel bed will be a step up. The room smells of stale coffee and cheap disinfectant. There's a queen bed, a TV from 2 decades ago, and a small, outdated bathroom. Aveline tosses her bag onto a sagging armchair. "Well," she says, forcing a small grin, "beats a ditch by the side of the road, right?" They decide to grab a quick dinner from a fast food joint next door, returning with takeout bags. While Aveline devours her fries, Harlan notices a small framed mirror on the wall. His reflection still looks haunted, but there's a trace of something else. To resolve. Maybe even the tiniest flicker of peace. After the meal, they both eye the single bed. An awkward pause. Aveline rubs her neck. "We can share, or I can crash in that sorry-looking chair." Harlan shakes his head quickly. "No, it's fine. We did it in the truck, right? This is bigger." Aveline cracks a small laugh. "That's one way to look at it." They lie down on opposite sides, careful not to invade each other's space. The musty comforter might as well be an ocean between them. Still, the faint rustling of sheets, the quiet rhythm of Aveline's breathing, these things keep Harlan's mind from spiraling into the dark. At one point, he rolls onto his side, voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you," he says, "for everything." Her reply is muffled by the pillow, but he catches the warmth in her tone. "Don't mention it." Lightning flickers across the horizon through the flimsy curtains, though no thunder follows. Harlan closes his eyes, reflecting on how drastically his life has changed in less than 48 hours. Yesterday he was sure he'd never see the sunrise. Now he lies in a tiny motel room next to a truck-driving stranger who's given him more kindness than he's felt in years. The hum of the AC lulls him toward sleep, and for the first time in a long while, he allows himself to believe in the possibility of tomorrow. Despite the jagged edges of his past, a new path beckons, carrying him onward into a future he never thought he deserved. Late in the afternoon, the Kenworth rumbles off the highway and onto a narrower road flanked by tall pines. A well-worn sign says, "Welcome to Tyler," in faded paint. Harlan peers out the window, noticing pastures dotted with wildflowers. The sky above is pastel pink, heralding the end of a long drive. Aveline slows as they approach a gravel driveway leading to a modest, single-story house. A wooden swing hangs from the porch, and potted plants line the steps. It feels almost postcard-like, yet there's a lived-in warmth that draws Harlan's attention. "This is it," she announces, cutting the engine. "My mom's place." Harlan climbs down from the truck, legs stiff. He notices an older SUV parked under a large oak tree, its branches casting dancing shadows on the hood. A child's tricycle leans against the porch railing, tiny scuff marks on its plastic wheels. He inhales the evening air, bracing himself for unfamiliar territory. The screen door creaks open, and a gray-haired woman with kind eyes steps out, wiping her hands on a floral apron. "Aveline," she calls, her voice thick with relief. "About time you got here, honey. I was starting to wonder if you'd run off to Canada." Aveline laughs softly, hurrying up the steps to give the woman a quick hug. "Sorry, Mama. Ran into some storms." She gestures for Harlan to join them. "This is Harlan," she says. "He's traveling with me for a bit. I hope that's all right." The older woman studies him, her gaze gentle but appraising. "Anyone who rides with my girl is welcome here," she says, extending a hand. "I'm Genevieve. You must be exhausted." Harlan nods, shaking her hand. "Nice to meet you, ma'am. Thanks for letting me stay." Before Genevieve can respond, a small figure darts from behind her legs, a boy of about 5, with wide brown eyes and a grin full of curiosity. He's wearing a shirt emblazoned with cartoon dinosaurs. He skids to a halt, staring up at Harlan. "Hi," the child says boldly. "Are you my mommy's friend?" Aveline crouches beside the boy, ruffling his hair. "Toby, this is Harlan. He helped me with the truck." She shoots Harland a quick look, silently conveying that she's not ready to go into details. Toby blinks a few times, then grins. That's cool. Did you see any monster trucks on the highway? His voice is bright, laced with a child's unfiltered excitement. Harland can't help but smile. Plenty of big rigs, but no monsters unless you count my poor driving skills. Toby snickers. That's silly, he declares, then tugs on Aveline's sleeve. Mommy, can I show him my new dinosaur collection? Aveline meets Harland's eyes. He sees a flicker of pride mixed with uncertainty. Maybe in a bit, bud. Let him catch his breath first. Genevieve ushers them inside. The living room is cozy, walls filled with family photos and pastel paintings. A battered couch faces a television set, and the faint smell of baked bread lingers in the air. Dinner's almost ready, Genevieve announces, heading toward the kitchen. Got a roast in the oven and cornbread, too. Aveline sets her duffel bag down, giving Harland a tentative smile. You can bunk in our spare room, she says softly. It's not fancy, but it's clean. Harland exhales, a knot of tension unraveling in his chest. Thank you. This is more than I deserve. She waves off his gratitude, eyes flicking to Toby, who's now rummaging in a toy box. You deserve a chance to breathe, she says simply. Genevieve reappears with a stack of plates. We'll talk more over dinner, she tells them. Aveline, can you help set the table? Harland, why don't you wash up? As Harland heads to the bathroom, Toby trails behind, firing off a barrage of questions. Do you like dinosaurs? How fast can your truck go? Each one a reminder that life can feel simple and bright, at least in a child's eyes. For a brief moment, Harland's mind strays to Jonah and how old he'd be now. A pang of longing hits him, but he pushes it aside. Stepping into the modest bathroom, he splashes water on his face. In the mirror, he sees a man still carrying sadness, but also a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Maybe he thinks this place could be the refuge he desperately needs, even if it's only temporary. The following morning breaks with golden sunlight streaking through the curtains of the spare bedroom. Harland wakes to the faint sound of roosters crowing somewhere in the distance. He stretches, half forgetting that he's no longer in a cramped truck sleeper or a dingy motel. He wanders into the kitchen, finding Genevieve humming a tune while flipping pancakes. The sweet aroma of maple syrup and fresh coffee wraps around him like a comforting blanket. Aveline is already seated at the table, sipping from a mug. Morning, she greets, motioning for him to sit. Hope you slept better than in the cab. Harland slides onto a chair. Beds with no road noise are a luxury, he jokes, though it's partly true. His body feels less tense, and for once his mind isn't consumed by the mental echo of Rochelle's betrayal. Toby bounds in, waving a crayon drawing. Look, I made a picture of a big truck and a Trex. He thrusts it at Harland. Sure enough, there's a scribbled truck with a little green Trex perched on top. That's you, Toby says, pointing to a stick figure in the driver's seat. Harland grins. I'm honored. You really captured my best side. Toby giggles, and Genevieve sets a plate of pancakes in front of him. After breakfast, Harland steps outside. The day is warm, sunlight glinting off Doolittle grass. He helps Aveline haul a few boxes from the truck, leftover supplies she'd been meaning to drop off. He's struck by the simplicity of it all, the normalcy. For a man who nearly jumped off a bridge days ago, the mundane tasks feel like a lifeline. Around midday, he notices Aveline thumbing through an old binder full of pamphlets. You looking at hall schedules? He asks. She lifts her gaze, then hesitates. Kind of. Also checking local CDL training programs. If you want, I can help you look into getting your commercial license. Harland thinks about it, recalling the time he spent on the road with her. The sense of direction it provided, even if only fleeting. Yeah, he says quietly. I'd like that. She nods, relief in her eyes. Figure you can't just stay idle. Might as well see if the trucking life suits you. He swallows, a pang of guilt flaring. I'm not trying to freeload. I'll find some way to pull my weight around here in the meantime. Aveline snorts softly. We can always use an extra set of hands. She points toward an old fence by the chicken coop. That needs patching. Think you can handle a hammer without busting your thumb? He smirks. No promises, For the next few days, Harlan slips into a calm routine, helping Genevieve with yard work, assisting Aveline in minor truck maintenance, laughing at Toby's endless dinosaur fascination. Yet amidst the serenity, a dull ache remains. Late at night, as he stares at the stars, he wonders about Jonah, how his life turned upside down in an instant, how a father's role got ripped away from him. But each morning, Toby's grin and Genevieve's hospitality reminds Harlan that kindness exists beyond his heartbreak. It's not perfect, but it's a start. On a balmy afternoon, Harlan is scrubbing dirt from the porch steps when Aveline steps out, phone in hand, her expression tight. "Mom, can you watch Toby for a sec?" she calls inside. Genevieve nods, confusion flickering across her face. Harlan rises, heart thudding. He can tell something's off. The breeze rustles nearby azalea bushes, and the sky overhead is an unblemished blue, a stark contrast to the tension in Aveline's posture. She presses the phone into his hand. "It's someone from Austin," she says quietly, voice tense. "They asked for you." Harlan swallows hard. Could it be Rochelle or Damon? Or possibly a lawyer? He steps away from the open door so Toby won't overhear, then lifts the phone to his ear. Harlan speaking. A male voice, hushed and serious, responds. "Harlan, this is Mitch. We used to work together at the DMV, remember? Listen, I've heard some nasty rumors. Rochelle and Damon, apparently, they got tangled up in something big. Drugs, maybe worse. I don't know all the details. Just thought you should know. Things might not go well for them." A swirl of conflicting emotions floods Harlan: anger, worry, a strange flicker of concern for Jonah. His grip on the phone tightens. "Are you sure?" he asks, voice shaky. "I'm sure enough," Mitch sighs. "Look, if they get busted, Child Protective Services might intervene. That boy, Jonah, he's caught in the middle." The mention of Jonah hits Harlan like a punch to the gut. He runs a hand through his hair, eyes closing. Despite everything, he once loved that kid like his own flesh and blood. He thanks Mitch and ends the call, numbness creeping through his limbs. Aveline watches him, brows furrowed. Bad news? He exhales slowly. Rochelle and Damon might be in serious trouble, drugs or distribution. Jonah's right there, and who knows how they're treating him. Her gaze softens, though there's also a simmer of anger in her tone. "That's terrible," she murmurs. "Poor kid." Genevieve peers out the door, concern etched on her face. "Everything all right?" Aveline waves her off gently. "Just some old baggage rearing its head, Mama." Harlan can't shake the trembling in his hands. A wave of guilt seeps in. He walked away from Jonah, but not by choice. Still, the boy's in the line of fire. "What am I supposed to do?" he mumbles, voice cracking. Aveline reaches out, placing a comforting hand on his arm. "We don't know the whole story yet. We'll wait for concrete info before jumping in. Remember what you told me about legal tangles? You can't waltz back into Austin without a plan." He nods, biting back the panic in his chest. A sliver of him wants to drive there tonight, but he knows she's right. Without clarity, he could make things worse. He glances at Toby, who's happily chasing a rubber ball in the yard, oblivious to adult dilemmas. The sight tugs at Harlan's heart. Jonah deserves the same carefree world. That night, Harlan paces on the porch under the yellow glow of a single bulb. Crickets chirp in the darkness, and a light breeze carries the scent of dew-covered grass. Inside, Toby's bedtime laughter resonates through the window. Aveline steps out quietly, arms folded. "He can't sleep," she murmurs. "Wants me to tell him a dinosaur story. I think he's waiting for you to say goodnight, too." Harlan casts her a grateful look, though worry lingers in his eyes. "Feels like I'm stuck between two worlds," he admits, voice hushed. "Part of me is thinking about Jonah, about maybe rushing to Austin. But another part wants to stay here, not screw up the peace you guys have offered me." Aveline's expression softens. "You need to do what's right for you," she says, stepping closer. "But I also won't lie, Toby's gotten attached, and so have we." He rubs his palms together, recalling the phone call. "Mitch said the rumors might blow over, or they might lead to arrests. I feel guilty just waiting around." She touches his shoulder lightly. "Sometimes waiting is the smart move. Running in blind could put Jonah and you in deeper trouble. He nods, exhaling shakily. They remain in a pensive silence. Dim light from the house glows behind them, silhouettes dancing across the porch floor. Eventually, a muffled voice calls from inside Toby, beckoning Harlan to read him a bedtime story. A flicker of emotion crosses Harlan's face. He's never had this kind of routine, this sense of belonging, not even in his so-called happy days before Damon's betrayal. He steps in to see Toby curled up in superhero pajamas, clutching a stuffed Trex. The boy's eyes light up. "Harlan, can you do the truck voice again? The big vroom?" A chuckle escapes him. "Sure thing, bud." He picks up a children's storybook about dinosaurs traveling on a bus. Toby giggles at every sound effect. Vroom, rattle, rattle, roar. Harlan glances at Aveline, who stands in the doorway, her smile faint but genuine. When the story ends, Toby yawns, eyes drooping. He murmurs something that sounds like, "Night, Dad." Harlan freezes, heart pounding. Did Toby just call him Dad, or was that just sleepy mumbling? Aveline's gaze meets his, full of mixed emotions. Harlan brushes Toby's hair back, swallowing hard. "Good night, buddy," he whispers, not daring to correct him. He steps out of the room, closing the door softly behind him. Aveline places a hand on his arm, tears glinting in her eyes. "I didn't coach him, I swear. Sometimes he just—" "It's okay," Harlan cuts in gently, though his voice trembles. I'm not mad." In the hallway's soft light, they stand inches apart, each grappling with the moment's weight. Harlan recalls Jonah's face, the swirl of confusion. Now Toby's simple, childlike acceptance tugs at him. A new sense of responsibility flowers in Harlan's chest. He's not Toby's father, but the kid's open heart feels like an anchor he never knew he needed. Aveline tugs at the edge of her shirt nervously. "If you want to leave for Austin, I won't stop you," she says. "But if you want to stay, we can figure this out together." He closes his eyes, a wave of gratitude coursing through him. "I'm staying," he says finally with quiet determination. "At least until I know more about this Jonah situation. You and Toby. You've given me something I didn't think I'd find again." Aveline exhales, relief etched on her features. "Good," she whispers. "We'll handle whatever comes next." And so, with Toby asleep down the hall and a silent promise hanging in the air, Harlan chooses not to run anymore. Tyler, for now, is home, and the possibility of a new life gleams just out of reach, waiting to be embraced. Sunlight filters through the tall pines in Aveline's yard, casting moving shadows across the grass. Harlan is standing near the chicken coop, absently scattering feed while Toby chatters about a new dinosaur book. The morning feels peaceful until Aveline rushes out of the house, phone clutched in her hand. "Harlan!" she calls, voice laced with urgency. Toby falls silent, sensing something's off. Aveline beckons Harlan toward the porch. "Your phone was ringing inside. I answered. It's a lawyer from Austin." Harlan's heart drops. He quickly hands the feed bucket to Toby, murmuring, "Stay here, buddy." Then, striding up the steps, he takes the phone from Aveline. "Hello?" he breathes, bracing himself. A man's voice on the other end. "Mr. Harlan Green? This is Jackson Hennessy, an attorney with the St. James Law Group in Austin. I represent Child Protective Services in a matter regarding Jonah. Jonah Green." The moment he says the name, Harlan's chest tightens. "Jonah," his voice catches. "I used to believe he was my son." "Yes, sir. We've discovered Jonah is currently in foster care, as Damon Green, your brother, and Rochelle Green, your ex-wife, have been arrested on federal drug charges. Your parents were taken into custody for alleged complicity." Hennessy's tone is carefully neutral, but the gravity of his words is staggering. Harlan almost drops the phone. He can't process the avalanche of revelations. Damon and Rochelle behind bars, his own parents arrested. Most of all, Jonah is in the system. He feels Aveline's hand on his arm, steadying him as he sways. "So what? What does this mean for Jonah?" Harlan forces out, voice trembling. The lawyer's voice softens. "Right now, the child is safe with a temporary foster family. However, given the unusual circumstances, Jonah's father and mother are both in custody. We're seeking any suitable relatives who might assume guardianship. Although the paternity test showed you weren't biologically related, you're still on file as Jonah's legal father until the final divorce decree was modified. We'd like you to come to Austin for a meeting with CPS. A mixture of hope and dread flares inside Harland. Yes, of course. I'll head there as soon as I can. They confirm an appointment in 2 days' time. When he hangs up, Harland's gaze drifts to Toby, who's peeking around the corner, wide-eyed. Genevieve hovers in the doorway, confusion etched on her face. Aveline folds her arms, voice gentle but firm. Tell us, Harland, what happened? His shoulders slump. They're all arrested, Rochelle, Damon, my parents. Jonah got placed in foster care. The lawyer wants me in Austin to talk about possibly stepping in. Genevieve presses a hand to her mouth. That poor child, she mutters. Toby tugs at her apron, clearly worried but not fully understanding the adult conversation. Aveline locks eyes with Harland. You're going, right? He nods, swallowing hard. I have to. I can't just abandon Jonah. With that single decision, a new storm forms in his mind. Memories of betrayal mix with a protective urge. Blood or not, Jonah once called him Daddy. 2 days later, Harland and Aveline drive into Austin early in the morning. The city skyline greets them, a mix of modern high-rises and older historical buildings. A slight haze from car exhaust hangs in the warm air. They park in front of a nondescript office building that houses a CPS branch. Inside, fluorescent lights buzz over scuffed linoleum floors. A stoic receptionist in a gray sweater leads them to a small conference room. Harland's pulse races. He hasn't been back here since everything fell apart. Minutes later, Mr. Jackson Hennessy enters, a tall man with neatly parted hair. He offers a polite nod. Mr. Green, Miss Aveline. Then he introduces Miss Bryson, a CPS caseworker with bright eyes and a calm demeanor. Thank you for coming, Miss Bryson begins. We know this must be difficult, but we believe Jonah needs familiar support. Damon and Rochelle's arrest have left him effectively without a legal guardian. Harland's voice cracks. I used to be on his birth certificate, but... Hennessy raises a hand gently. We're aware of the changes to the paternity filing. Legally, you're not Jonah's father. However, a judge might still consider you if it's in the child's best interest. But I won't lie, there's an entire process. Background checks, home studies, psychological evaluations. Aveline squeezes Harland's hand beneath the table. Her silent encouragement helps him steady his breath. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, he says softly. Jonah, he may not be my son by blood, but I cared for him from day one. I can't just walk away. Miss Bryson's expression warms. That commitment is what we need. But know this, Rochelle previously set a restraining order against you regarding Jonah. It's since been annulled, but the situation is complicated. Hennessy interjects, flipping through some paperwork. At this stage, we'll petition for your guardianship if you're sure. However, the final decision remains with the courts. Aveline clears her throat, her tone resolute. We live in Tyler now. Harland's been staying with my family. We can provide a stable home if this is approved. The lawyer nods, jotting notes. You'll have to sign forms indicating your intent. There may be an emergency hearing soon. Rochelle's counsel or Damon's might contest it, though that seems unlikely given they're both facing federal charges. Harland glances at Aveline, heart pounding with anxiety. Yet beneath the fear, a fierce protectiveness takes root. He stands. Show me where to sign. Later that afternoon, Harland paces outside the courthouse waiting for documents. The air tastes of exhaust and hot pavement. Aveline finishes a phone call, scowling. You won't believe this. Rochelle contacted a mutual acquaintance from jail, someone named Alicia. She claims you're mentally unstable. Harland's jaw tenses. He shouldn't be surprised. Rochelle always knew how to strike where it hurt. She's pulling the Harland tried to kill himself card, isn't she? Aveline nods grimly. Yeah, she said you're a danger to Jonah, that you're suicidal and can't handle stress. He drags a hand down his face, frustration boiling. It's partly true I was suicidal, but that doesn't mean I'm unfit. That was rock bottom, and I'm not there anymore. Exactly. Aveline's eyes flash with anger. We won't let her twist your past into some permanent label. I already called a lawyer friend, Derek Evans. He can help fight this slander. At that moment, a man in a navy suit steps out of the courthouse, scanning the crowd. He spots Aveline and approaches. You must be Miss Aveline, he says, offering a handshake. Derek Evans, local family law. Heard you need assistance? Aveline shoots Harland an encouraging look. Yes, that's us. Derek adjusts his tie, taking in Harland's tense posture. I was briefed on the situation. Rochelle's in jail, but apparently determined to sabotage your guardianship. We'll file a formal objection to her claims. We can present evidence you're in a stable environment now, character witnesses, therapy records if needed. Harland inhales unsteadily. I'll do whatever it takes. I just want Jonah safe. Derek clasps his shoulder. That's the right attitude. We can't guarantee a smooth ride, but we'll fight for you. Aveline's phone buzzes again. She checks it and sighs. Rochelle's attorney is also pushing for a psychological evaluation of Harland. Then we'll get it, Harland states, chin lifted. I've come too far to let Rochelle's lies overshadow the truth. Deep inside, anxiety churns like a storm, but Aveline's fierce loyalty and Derek's calm reassurance form a lifeline. Harland steels himself, determined not to let past despair define his future. 2 weeks later, a preliminary hearing is convened in a dimly lit courtroom on the 3rd floor of the Austin Judicial Center. The tension is palpable. Aveline and Genevieve sit in the gallery for moral support. Toby stayed behind in Tyler with a neighbor. Harland stands next to Derek, his heart hammering as the judge enters. He spots his parents at the opposite table, their eyes downcast. They look older, frailer, wearing the wrinkles of regret. Damon and Rochelle aren't present, being held in a federal detention facility, but they have counsel at the defense table. Miss Bryson from CPS begins by summarizing the case: Damon and Rochelle's arrests, Jonah's foster care placement, and Harland's petition for guardianship. She indicates that Harland was once presumed to be Jonah's father. Then Harland's mother rises shakily, glancing his way. Your Honor, she says, voice trembling. We made mistakes. We followed Damon's lead to keep Jonah close to us, but now we're in no position to care for him. Her gaze flickers to Harland, tears brimming. Please, he's our grandson, even if not by blood. Harland's the only one who can help now. Harland stands rigid, remembering how easily they had turned their backs on him. Anger wars with pity in his chest. He feels the weight of eyes on him, the judge, the lawyers, the handful of observers. Derek steps forward. My client understands the gravity of this situation. Despite the past, Mr. Green stands ready to provide a stable home for Jonah. Rochelle's attorney, a wiry man in a pinstriped suit, attempts a rebuttal, reading out statements Rochelle gave from jail. She alleges Mr. Green is suicidal and emotionally volatile, he says, voice dripping with feigned concern. She requests the court deny guardianship, but Miss Bryson interjects. We have a recent psych eval indicating Mr. Green is in good mental health and receiving supportive services. We also have testimonies from Miss Aveline and Mrs. Genevieve, people who live with him daily. The judge, an older woman with steely gray hair, peeks over her glasses. We're not here to settle full custody. This is a preliminary hearing, but based on the evidence, I see no immediate reason to block Mr. Green's petition. She raps her gavel lightly. Jonah will be placed under Mr. Green's temporary guardianship pending the final hearing. Court is adjourned. A muffled gasp escapes Harland. Aveline leaps up, grabbing his hand. He closes his eyes, relief mingling with the sting of old wounds. At the opposite side, his parents mumble thanks before being led out by bailiffs. He can't read their expressions, not sure he wants to. Outside the courtroom, Miss Bryson offers a kind smile. Congratulations on this step. We'll coordinate the transition for Jonah. Harland's voice shakes as he replies, Thank you. Then he turns to Aveline, her grin shining amid the courthouse bustle. We're bringing Jonah home, he whispers, hardly believing it. Derek pats his shoulder. It's only interim custody. A full trial or final hearing is ahead, but you've given Jonah a chance. Aveline tilts her head, eyes gleaming. We'll manage the rest, one day at a time. Genevieve wraps them both in a hug, tears in her eyes. That boy's lucky, she murmurs. And so are you, Harland. For the first time since that stormy night on the bridge, Harland feels hope surging instead of despair. He isn't Jonah's biological father, but he's determined to be the guardian the boy desperately needs. No matter how long the road, he knows now he doesn't walk it alone. A warm afternoon sun filters through the oak trees in Aveline's front yard. The air smells of freshly cut grass and fading honeysuckle. Harlan stands by the gate, heart pounding with anticipation. A modest sedan from Child Protective Services pulls into the gravel driveway. Aveline, holding Toby's hand, waits beside him. When the CPS worker Miss Bryson steps out, she gives them a gentle nod. From the back seat, a small boy emerges. Jonah. His big brown eyes dart around, uncertain. He's clutching a worn backpack and a stuffed rabbit with one ear nearly torn off. Harlan swallows the lump in his throat, stepping forward. "Hey, buddy," he says softly, voice trembling. He can't quite manage a smile yet. Relief and anxiety swirl in equal measure. This is the child he once believed was his own flesh and blood. Now he's here under drastically different circumstances. Jonah glances at Miss Bryson, who gives an encouraging pat on his shoulder. "Go on, Jonah," she murmurs. "It's okay." The little boy steps closer. "Are you Harlan?" he asks in a small voice, scrunching the stuffed rabbit to his chest. "Yeah," Harlan answers, nodding. "That's me." Toby edges up beside him. "Hi, I'm Toby, I'm 5. Want to see my Trex toys?" He's bouncing on his toes, bright-eyed. As usual, Toby's enthusiasm radiates warmth. Jonah's eyes flick from Toby to Harlan, then back. He nods shyly. "Okay," he mumbles, a faint glimmer of curiosity in his tone. Aveline beams, stepping forward. "Welcome, Jonah. We're so glad you're here." She kneels down, offering him a gentle hug, which Jonah tentatively accepts. Miss Bryson hands Harlan a folder of paperwork, her smile tinged with relief. "He's had a rough few weeks," Miss Bryson says in a quiet voice. "Try to keep things calm and consistent for him. I'll schedule a follow-up visit soon." Harlan thanks her, shaky with gratitude. When the CPS car pulls away, the yard falls silent except for the rustle of tree branches overhead. Jonah grips his rabbit, looking around the property with nervous eyes. Harlan takes a deep breath, determined to make this place feel like home for Jonah. Later that afternoon, they gather around the kitchen table for a simple welcome snack. Lemonade and homemade cookies from Genevieve. Jonah barely says a word, hunched in his seat. Toby chatters about dinosaurs, but eventually senses Jonah's unease. "Want to come see my room?" Toby asks gently. "I got a bunk bed, it's pretty cool." Jonah glances at Harlan, then Aveline, seeking permission. Harlan musters a reassuring grin. "Go ahead," he says softly. "We'll be right here." The two boys disappear down the hallway, and Genevieve exhales. "Poor thing," she murmurs. "He looks so lost." Harlan rests his elbows on the table, face taut with concern. "He's been through more chaos than any kid should," he says. "I just hope he can feel safe with us." Aveline reaches across, giving his hand a reassuring squeeze. "You're doing great," she says. "He's here and he'll learn we're not going anywhere." In the background, faint squeals of excitement erupt from Toby's room, and Harlan's chest loosens just a little. Maybe Toby's cheerful nature is the balm Jonah needs right now. A few days pass, and the crisp morning sunshine washes over the yard where Toby and Jonah scurry around, tossing a foam football. Jonah still clutches that battered stuffed rabbit in his free hand, as if letting it go might unravel his fragile sense of security. Harlan watches from the porch, sipping coffee, heart tugging each time Jonah's shy smile emerges. Just then, a white sedan pulls up a CPS car again. Miss Bryson steps out, accompanied by a second woman, Mrs. Ramirez, who carries a clipboard and a warm smile. "Morning, folks," Miss Bryson calls. "We're here for the home visit." Aveline offers them seats in the living room, while Genevieve ushers the boys outside to keep them occupied. Harlan feels a subtle tension coil in his gut. A home visit is standard procedure, but the stakes have never felt higher. Mrs. Ramirez scans the living room, jotting notes. "It's neat, well-maintained," she comments softly. "Harlan, you're residing here permanently?" Harlan nods. "That's right. My name's on some of the utilities now. I help with expenses and chores. He glances at Aveline, choosing words carefully. "We're making a stable environment." Miss Bryson taps her pen, expression thoughtful. "One concern the court might raise is that you're not married. Sometimes they question the permanency of such an arrangement, especially in guardianship cases." Harlan's pulse quickens. I understand, he says. But Aveline and I, He hesitates. We're committed. Our situation isn't casual. Mrs. Ramirez sets down her clipboard. Regardless, the judge will want reassurance Jonah has a consistent father figure, someone who won't leave if the relationship changes. Her tone is kind but firm. Aveline's cheeks flush. We're aware, she says. Our bond is real. If it helps to prove we're stable, we'll do what it takes. The two CPS workers exchange polite smiles. Miss Bryson rises, adjusting her blazer. I appreciate your honesty. The rest of this visit is just routine. We'll check the bedrooms, meet the children, see how everyone interacts. In the yard, Toby is teaching Jonah how to tackle gently on the grass, the foam football forgotten. When Miss Bryson and Mrs. Ramirez approach, Jonah stiffens, clutching his rabbit. But Toby stands protectively by his side. Harlan's heart warms, seeing how Toby extends that sibling-like comfort. She's a friend, Jonah, Toby says matter-of-factly. Don't worry. That small moment cements Miss Bryson's approving nod. They seem bonded already, she observes. This is good. Harlan can't help the slight grin crossing his face. He can almost envision a future where Jonah feels truly safe, a future that might involve more steps than he anticipated, like formalizing his status with Aveline. He glances at her, and she offers a quiet nod as if reading his thoughts. Late evening. The house is subdued, Toby and Jonah tucked into bed, Genevieve quietly knitting in her room. Harlan and Aveline relax in the living room, softly lit by a single floor lamp. Then Aveline's phone buzzes. She grabs it, frowning at the unfamiliar caller ID. Hello? She answers, voice cautious. A second later, her expression hardens. Rochelle? She repeats, eyes widening. Harlan stiffens, crossing the room in 2 strides. Aveline switches to speaker. Rochelle's voice crackles through. Tell Harlan I'm not done fighting. He wants to take my child over my dead body. Harlan's blood chills. Jonah was never your property to begin with, he bites out, stepping closer to the phone. You gave up the right to call him yours when you and Damon, Rochelle interrupts with a venomous sneer. You were the suicidal loser on that bridge. You think the court won't see that? I'll make sure everyone knows you're mentally unstable. Jonah's better off in foster care than with you. Aveline bristles, knuckles whitening around the phone. You're the one behind bars, she retorts. Why would a court trust anything you say now? Rochelle gives an icy laugh, hollow and cruel. I still have lawyers. Damon's fathering is questionable, but I'll drag your sorry butts through the mud if it means hurting Harlan. Her voice lowers to a hiss. He doesn't deserve my child. Before Harlan can shout back, Rochelle hangs up. The living room resonates with her lingering malice. Aveline sets the phone down, heart pounding. Damn it, she mutters. She's really doubling down on this. Harlan covers his face with his hands, rage and anxiety swirling. We knew she'd play dirty, he says, voice trembling. But hearing it, Aveline gently rubs his shoulder. Harlan, we have Derek Evans as our lawyer. We have the psych evaluation that proves you're stable now. Rochelle's threats are smoke and mirrors. He exhales, forcing calm. Jonah's not a pawn, he whispers fiercely. I need him to know he's safe. I won't let Rochelle's poison seep into our home. Aveline wraps her arms around him, a tender gesture in the quiet house. We're with you, she says. Your mental health now is leagues away from where it was. She can't rewrite that truth. He nods against her shoulder, steeling himself. Let her try, he murmurs. We'll show the court who the real threat is. A few weeks after Rochelle's chilling phone call, tension still lingers in the household. However, small rays of normalcy peek through. Jonah and Toby eagerly build pillow forts together. Genevieve teaches them silly songs. Through it all, Harlan notices a sense of family forming, albeit shadowed by impending legal battles. One balmy afternoon, Harlan works in the backyard, hammering new planks into a sagging fence. Sweat drips down his brow, but the physical labor offers a welcome distraction from the swirl of court preparations. Aveline approaches with 2 bottles of iced tea, offering one. She leans on the fence, sighing deeply. How are you holding up? She asks, scanning his face. Between Rochelle's threats and the looming hearing, you barely sleep. He takes a swig of tea. I'm exhausted, but when I see Jonah and Toby playing, it's worth it. He hesitates, gaze drifting to the horizon. There's something. I've been thinking about... Aveline arches a brow. Okay, spill. Harlan sets the bottle aside, heart pounding. Look, I never thought I'd say this, but the CPS and the court keep hammering the point about stability. Jonah and Toby need a stable family, not just a boyfriend-girlfriend arrangement. He exhales. I'm not proposing just because of them, though. I want this for us. Aveline's eyes flicker with surprise, then well with emotion. Harlan, are you? Are you saying... He nods, taking her hand gently. Marry me. We can show the court we're serious about being a family because we are. I love you, Av. You saved me that night on the bridge, and every day since you've shown me a future I never believed in. He slips a small ring box from his pocket. Nothing fancy, just a simple band. I know it's sudden, but will you be my wife? Tears trickle down her cheeks, and she laughs softly. You big goof, she whispers, voice trembling. Yes, I mean, of course I'll marry you. She throws her arms around his neck, kissing him in a burst of joy. The ring slides onto her finger, a simple circle of gold that glints in the afternoon light. From the porch, Genevieve peeks out. Toby and Jonah stand behind her, wide-eyed. Toby breaks into a cheer, while Jonah just grins shyly, unsure of the fuss, but sensing something good. Aveline beckons them over, and they swarm around, hugging in a tangled group. Genevieve's eyes glisten with tears. This is your family, Jonah, Harlan murmurs, voice thick with emotion. He ruffles Jonah's hair, and the boy gazes up with quiet wonder. Toby bounces excitedly, chanting, We're having a wedding! We're having a wedding! Aveline chuckles, wiping her cheeks. Yes, we are. Then she locks eyes with Harlan, an unspoken promise passing between them. They'll face Rochelle's manipulations and Damon's betrayal because together, they can stand firm for the two boys who need them most. A warm breeze rolls through Aveline's backyard, where a small cluster of folding chairs faces a makeshift arbor draped with white ribbons and wildflowers. The late morning sun casts dappled light across the lawn. Harlan adjusts his collar near the edge of the porch, heart thudding with anticipation. He never imagined getting married again, certainly not under such legal pressures. But today is more than just a ceremony. It's a statement of commitment for both Jonah and Toby. Genevieve bustles around, checking that each row of chairs is in place. She wears a peach-colored dress, her hair pinned neatly. Toby and Jonah circle her like excited puppies, each wearing a miniature suit, fidgeting with their bow ties. Toby whispers, Are we ring-bearers or something? Jonah nods shyly, clinging to a small velvet cushion with two bands pinned atop it. Aveline emerges from the house in a simple white sundress that sways at her ankles. She catches Harlan's eye, and for a moment the tension of the upcoming court hearing melts away. The guests, mostly neighbors and a few friends from Aveline's trucking circles, quiet as Aveline steps forward, led by Genevieve. There's no grand orchestral music, just the hush of the breeze in the trees and the soft exclamations from Toby and Jonah. Pastor Fenn, a kindly older man wearing a patterned tie, greets them at the arbor. Shall we begin? He asks, voice gentle. Harlan nods, swallowing the lump in his throat. Throughout the brief ceremony, Harlan feels that old panic about the trial creeping in, but each time his gaze meets Aveline's, he sees calm determination. When they exchange vows, her voice is steady. We'll face every storm, together. Then Harlan slips a ring onto her finger, recalling the first time he nearly lost himself on that stormy bridge. Today, he's found a reason to stand strong. Applause erupts. Toby and Jonah cheer louder than anyone, and cameras flash. As Aveline and Harlan share their first kiss as husband and wife, a swirl of emotions, love, relief, lingering worry fills the air. Only the approaching legal battle overshadows their joy. But for now, they cling to this fragile happiness in the backyard sunshine. Late that evening, the newlyweds retreat to the living room. Harlan paces by the window, the echo of the wedding's laughter still lingering in the house. Aveline sits on the couch, her bare feet tucked under her, wedding dress replaced by comfy pajamas. Their rings catch the lamplight whenever their hands move. Jonah and Toby are fast asleep in their shared room, exhausted from the excitement. Genevieve has turned in too, leaving Harland and Aveline alone with their thoughts. Stacks of legal papers and notes from Derek Evans, their lawyer, clutter the coffee table. I keep replaying Rochelle's threats in my head, Harland admits quietly. She'll be at that hearing tomorrow, or at least represented, and Damon might pull a last-minute stunt. I can't shake this dread. Aveline reaches out, lacing her fingers through his. Remember what we said in our vows? She murmurs. We're together in this. Rochelle and Damon can try all they want, but we have the documents. We have CPS's support. We have each other. He exhales, jaw set. I know. It's just the thought of losing Jonah after everything. She tugs him onto the couch. We won't lose. This family is real, and the court will see that. Let's focus on the evidence. Jonah's been thriving here. Toby's bonded with him. We're married now, and we have testimonies from neighbors, even the local school counselor. She taps a small folder. They all vouch for you and for us. He squeezes her hand, gratitude swelling. I never expected to find love or hope again, let alone face a trial for a child who isn't even mine by blood. But he's ours in every way that matters. Aveline leans her head against his shoulder. Tomorrow's going to be tough, she says softly, but we'll make it through. They sit like that, letting the silent house envelop them. Outside, the moon hangs low, and a distant coyote howls, as though echoing Harland's quiet fears. But within these walls, he feels the warmth of a family worth fighting for. Morning arrives, bringing a crispness to the air that feels both invigorating and unsettling. The courthouse in Austin looms ahead, an imposing structure of concrete and glass. Harland, Aveline, Toby, and Jonah step out of Genevieve's SUV onto the bustling sidewalk. Derek Evans greets them at the entrance, giving a reassuring nod. Inside courtroom C, the atmosphere is tense. Damon sits at one table wearing shackles, a guarded expression on his face. Rochelle, similarly restrained, scowls at Harland from across the aisle. Their respective defense lawyers murmur quietly. A CPS representative stands near Miss Bryson, who offers Harland a small, encouraging smile. The judge, an older woman with silver hair pinned in a bun, calls the court to order. She reviews the case history, Damon and Rochelle's drug-related offenses, Jonah's foster care placement, Harland's interim guardianship. Then she turns a piercing gaze on Harland. I understand you've recently married, Mr. Green? Harland's voice wavers slightly, but he holds steady. Yes, Your Honor, my wife, Aveline, and I want to provide a stable home for Jonah. We've prepared statements from CPS, neighbors, and a psychologist confirming my mental stability. Rochelle's lawyer tries to raise the old suicide attempt. Your Honor, we must remember Mr. Green's documented emotional fragility, but Derek calmly presents the updated psych eval, letters from a therapist confirming Harland's progress. Rochelle's jaw tightens. Damon attempts to speak, claiming Harland never loved Jonah the way a real father does. But Miss Bryson counters with evidence of how Harland cared for Jonah since birth, even after learning the child wasn't biologically his. Toby's short statement scrawled in a child's handwriting about, Jonah is my brother and we have lots of fun, draws a ripple of warmth in the courtroom. Finally, the judge calls for a brief recess. Harland steps into the hallway, tension thrumming in his veins. Aveline places a steadying hand on his back. We've done everything we can, she whispers. Now it's in the judge's hands. 15 minutes later, court reconvenes. The judge addresses the room, voice echoing. Mr. Damon Green, Miss Rochelle Green, the evidence before me indicates you both committed offenses rendering you unfit for parenthood at this time. Mr. Harland Green and Mrs. Aveline Green have demonstrated a stable household, emotional readiness, and the desire to raise Jonah. Therefore, parental rights are hereby terminated for Damon and Rochelle Green, and full legal custody of Jonah is granted to Harland and Aveline Green. A hush falls, broken only by Jonah's soft gasp. Rochelle curses under her breath and Damon looks down, face pale. Harland's chest tightens with relief so strong it hurts. Aveline pulls Jonah into her arms, tears shining in her eyes. Toby runs up, hugging Harland's leg. They've won. The judge raps the gavel. Court is adjourned. Late afternoon sun streams through the pillars of the courthouse steps. Harland, Aveline, Toby, and Jonah stand at the top, the cityscape behind them. Jonah holds Harland's hand, gazing around wide-eyed. Toby, ever the exuberant one, pumps a fist in the air. "We did it!" he exclaims. Derek Evans offers a congratulatory handshake. "You've got the custody papers. Jonah's officially yours." He smiles at the boys, both bouncing with a mix of relief and excitement. "Take care now and let me know if you need anything else." Just then, Harland's parents appear near the bottom of the steps, flanked by a guard. Their faces betray regret. They give Harland a wavering look, neither stepping forward nor daring to speak. After a moment, Harland meets their eyes, unsure. Part of him aches from their betrayal. Part of him wonders if forgiveness is possible. He nods once in acknowledgement, then turns away. For now, there is no easy reconciliation. Aveline softly squeezes Harland's hand. "Let's go home," she says. He nods, leading the family down the steps. They climb into Genevieve's SUV, quiet laughter and relieved chatter filling the interior as the city streets melt behind them. Later, back in Tyler, the warm evening air smells of cedar and freshly watered lawns. Jonah and Toby leap from the car, racing to the backyard, giggling. Genevieve follows with a wide grin, rummaging in the fridge for celebratory lemonade. On the back porch, Aveline and Harland watch the boys chase each other under the glow of string lights. A gentle breeze sways the wind chimes, creating a soft lullaby. Aveline nudges Harland. "You okay?" He smiles, eyes brimming with gratitude. "Yeah," he whispers, voice thick. "I am. For the first time in a long time, I really am." She leans against his shoulder. "We have our family now. Toby, Jonah, and maybe someday more?" A spark of possibility flashes in his eyes. "You wouldn't mind adding another set of footprints around here?" She chuckles, nodding. "We'll see how we handle these two troublemakers first," she teases, glancing at the giggling boys. Then, softening, she adds, "But yeah, one day." Harland reaches for her hand, content to stand there a while longer, letting the moment wash over him. The memory of that stormy bridge night lingers as a reminder of how close he came to losing it all. But in the rosy twilight, with Toby and Jonah's laughter echoing across the yard, he realizes he's found his reason to live and to love.